Your empathy was supposed to make you the hero, wasn't it? The one who understood, who cared, who could fix things. But lately, it feels more like you're the hostage. Here you are exhausted, second-guessing your own reality, and quietly cleaning up messes you didn't even make. It's a cruel twist, isn't it? That same finely tuned radar that lets you feel someone's pain also seems to let them download it straight into your nervous system, leaving you drained and disoriented. Today, we're going to unpack how your superpower is quietly being used as a self-destruct button, and why the very people you help the most are often the ones who drain you the hardest. We're talking about the dark side of empathy, and it's probably hitting closer to home than you think. Validate, then drop the twist, empathy. Just saying the word feels noble, doesn't it? It's a trait we universally admire. Teachers praise it in classrooms, parents brag about their sensitive kids, and dating profiles practically lead with it, hoping to signal a deep capacity for connection. And let's be real, most of the time, empathy is a social superpower, a profound human glue that binds us together. Think about it. Studies consistently show that empathic concern predicts all sorts of prosocial behaviors. People with high empathy are more likely to volunteer their time, donate their hard-earned money, and even, in moments of crisis, pull strangers from burning cars. It's the engine behind compassion, the foundation of true understanding, and the reason we feel a shared humanity. It allows us to step into another person's shoes, to genuinely feel with them, and to offer support that truly resonates. This capacity for emotional resonance is what builds trust, fosters cooperation, and ultimately makes society function. Without it, we'd be isolated islands, incapable of collective action or genuine intimacy. But here's where the latest wave of research flips the script, and it might just make you sit up a little straighter. For every warm, genuine connection empathy creates, it can also secretly brew resentment, foster manipulation, and lead to full-body burnout. It's like having a beautiful, powerful car that, unbeknownst to you, has a hidden drain on its fuel line. You keep pouring in energy, but it's disappearing into the ether, leaving you stranded. In other words, the very trait you trust to do the most good, the one you've cultivated and celebrated, can actually do the most damage, especially when you refuse to look at the emotional invoice. When you ignore the hidden costs of constantly feeling for and with others without adequate protection. This isn't about blaming empathy. It's about understanding its often overlooked shadow. It's about realizing that even the most beautiful intentions can have unintended, and sometimes painful, consequences. The 4 backfires. Let's dive into these hidden costs, these backfires of unchecked empathy. They're insidious because they often masquerade as kindness, as selflessness, as being a good person. But beneath the surface, they're eroding your well-being, one emotional download at a time. Number A. Emotional contagion. Psychologists have a rather fitting term for this. Catching feelings. It's not just a cute phrase. It's a very real neurological phenomenon. Imagine this. You walk into lunch feeling calm, centered, maybe even a little cheerful. Your friend sits down, and before you can even ask how she is, she launches into a furious rant about her nightmare boss. She vents about the impossible deadlines, the passive-aggressive emails, the sheer injustice of it all. 20 minutes later, she might feel a little lighter, having offloaded her burden. But what about you? Your chest is tight, your coffee's gone cold, and you've mentally drafted not 1, but 3 scathing resignation letters on her behalf. You're agitated, frustrated, and you've absorbed her emotional state as if it were your own. This isn't just about sympathy. It's about a primal, involuntary response. Our mirror neurons, those incredible brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing it, don't ask permission. They copy-paste. They're wired to resonate with the emotions of others, creating a direct conduit from their distress to your nervous system. It's why yawning is contagious. And it's why a room full of happy people can lift your spirits, or a room full of anxious people can make your palms sweat. The problem arises when you're constantly exposed to negative emotions without a filter. Do that 5 times a day. Absorb a colleague's stress, a spouse's frustration, a child's sadness, a friend's anger, and a news report's despair, and you're essentially an emotional recycling bin for everybody else's trash. You're not just witnessing their pain, You're feeling it, internalizing it, and carrying it around. This constant emotional burden isn't sustainable. It leads to chronic stress, irritability, and a pervasive sense of overwhelm. You become a walking sponge, soaking up every drop of emotional negativity around you, and eventually, you'll feel completely waterlogged, unable to wring yourself out. Your own emotional landscape becomes cluttered with the debris of others' lives, leaving little room for your own peace or joy. To enabling bad behavior now. This one is particularly insidious because it comes from a place of genuine care. High empathic concern, combined with weak or non-existent boundaries, creates a dangerous formula, a free pass for terrible choices. You understand why he cheated. He was under so much pressure at work. You get why she lied. She was just trying to protect someone. You sympathize with why they ghosted on rent. Times are tough, right? The slippery slope here is that understanding, when unchecked, mutates into excusing. And excusing, while it feels kind in the moment, actually prevents people from facing the natural, often necessary, consequences of their actions. You might think you're helping them avoid pain, but what you're really doing is shielding them from growth. Consequences, however uncomfortable, are powerful teachers. They provide feedback, signaling that a behavior needs to change. When you consistently remove those consequences, you inadvertently reinforce the very behaviors you wish would stop. Consider the research on college roommates. A fascinating study found that the most empathic students were twice as likely to cover for a friend's plagiarism. Think about that for a second. On the surface, it feels like an act of profound kindness, right? Protecting a friend from academic ruin. But what's the deeper impact? This act, while well-intentioned, actually delays the friend's personal and academic growth. It robs them of the opportunity to learn from their mistake, to take responsibility, and to develop integrity. And what about the helper? They're left carrying a heavy burden of guilt, complicity, and anxiety, all while the friend continues their pattern of avoiding accountability. This dynamic isn't just limited to college campuses. It plays out in relationships, families, and workplaces every single day. We enable partners who refuse to seek help, friends who consistently make poor financial decisions, or family members who exploit our generosity. We tell ourselves we're being supportive, but often we're just perpetuating a cycle of unhealthy behavior, all under the guise of empathy. It's a painful lesson to learn. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is allow someone to experience the natural repercussions of their choices. Number A. Vicarious trauma and burnout. The medical and mental health professions have long recognized a severe consequence of prolonged empathic engagement. Vicarious trauma, also known as secondary traumatic stress. Therapists, social workers, first responders, they have a specific term for the nightmares, the hypervigilance, the emotional numbness, and the profound sense of hopelessness that comes from absorbing clients' horror stories, day in and day out. They witness human suffering on a scale most of us can barely imagine, and that suffering leaves an indelible mark. But here's the crucial point. You don't need a therapy couch or a badge to experience this. You don't need to be a professional caregiver. An empathic parent, tirelessly caring for a depressed teen, constantly absorbing their child's despair and self-doubt, can slide into the same ditch. A devoted partner supporting a loved one through a grueling cancer battle, feeling every pang of their pain, every wave of their fear, can find themselves experiencing the same symptoms. Informal caregivers, those unsung heroes caring for elderly parents or chronically ill family members, are particularly vulnerable. Over time, this relentless exposure to suffering, combined with the emotional absorption of empathy, takes a brutal toll on your physical and mental health. Neuroscience shows that chronic stress, often a byproduct of vicarious trauma, can literally shrink your hippocampus, the brain region crucial for memory and emotional regulation. Your cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, stay perpetually high, leading to systemic inflammation and a host of health problems. Research even indicates that prolonged compassion fatigue can increase your risk of heart disease by as much as 28%. This isn't just about feeling tired or a little down. This is a medical warning. It's a physiological breakdown, a profound and dangerous form of burnout that impacts every aspect of your life. Compassion fatigue isn't poetic. It's a critical health crisis masquerading as selflessness. It depletes your emotional reserves, erodes your sense of purpose and can leave you feeling empty, cynical, and utterly disconnected, ironically, from the very capacity for care that led you there in the first place. Hash for becoming a magnet for manipulators, and then we arrive at perhaps the most chilling backfire, becoming a beacon for those who would exploit your very nature. Enter the dark empath. This isn't a character from a psychological thriller. It's a very real and increasingly recognized personality type. These individuals are often incredibly charming, charismatic, and possess average to high levels of empathy. They can genuinely understand emotions, your emotions, specifically. But here's the twist. They blend this emotional insight with traits from the dark triad, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and sometimes psychopathy. They read the room like a seasoned DJ reads a crowd, intuitively knowing what emotional buttons to push, what anxieties to soothe, what hopes to ignite. Only, instead of spinning records to make you dance, they spin your feelings to keep you dizzy, disoriented, and ultimately under their control. They use their empathic understanding not to connect, but to control, not to support, but to destabilize. One classic tactic is empathic gaslighting. Imagine pouring your heart out to someone, expressing how hurt or confused you are by their behavior. Instead of validating your feelings, they might say something like, "I feel you're overreacting," or "I understand why you think you're upset, but you're really just tired." See how subtly they twist it? It sounds caring, almost like they're feeling with you. Relationships with dark empaths feel emotionally uneven, like walking on shifting sands. One person is vulnerable, open, and giving, while the other is emotionally restrained, calculating, and always in control. This dynamic leads to a kind of psychological captivity, where the victim feels trapped and dependent on the manipulator's conditional, weaponized empathy. They become hypervigilant, constantly trying to understand and appease, while their own emotional needs are systematically ignored or exploited. The experience can be profoundly disorienting, leaving a lasting scar on one's ability to trust both others and their own instincts. Few, if any, of those backfires landed a little too close to home. If you felt a jolt of recognition, or if you're now seeing certain dynamics in your life with startling clarity, then it's time to hit pause. Take a breath. This isn't about shaming you. It's about empowering you. And if you're ready to stop being the emotional sponge and start being the thermostat, setting the temperature instead of absorbing it, then maybe smash that subscribe button. We drop science-backed mental health videos every week, designed to help you navigate the complexities of your inner world and your relationships with more wisdom and less wear and tear. Why more empathy isn't the answer. Our culture keeps yelling, "We need more empathy." And yes, in a world that often feels fractured and disconnected, the impulse to call for greater understanding is a good one. But here's the thing. More of a broken tool just breaks it worse. It leads to burnout, enabling, and vulnerability to manipulation. It's undirected emotional energy that can overwhelm both the giver and the receiver. We need to move beyond the simplistic idea that more is always better when it comes to emotional capacities. That's why a growing number of researchers, neuroscientists, and psychologists are now arguing for an upgrade. They suggest we shift our focus from empathy, which, at its core, is about feeling with someone, experiencing their emotions as if they were your own, to compassion. What's the difference? Compassion is about caring about someone, wishing them well, and being moved to alleviate their suffering. But crucially, while maintaining a safe emotional distance. It's the difference between feeling the pain in your own body and recognizing someone else's pain and wanting to help. This isn't just semantics. It's a neurological distinction with profound implications for your well-being. Brain scans have consistently shown that when people engage in empathy feeling with, the pain circuits in their brain light up. You literally experience a version of the other person's distress. This can be exhausting and lead to avoidance, because who wants to constantly activate their own pain centers? However, when people practice compassion, caring about the reward centers of the brain activate, you feel a sense of warmth, connection, and even purpose, leaving you energized instead of emptied. Compassion taps into altruism and caregiving circuits, which are inherently more sustainable and less draining than constantly mirroring another's suffering. It's the difference between drowning with someone and throwing them a life raft. Both come from a place of care, but only one is truly effective and sustainable for the long haul. This upgrade isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about becoming more effectively, sustainably, and healthily caring. The compassion upgrade. So, how do we make this upgrade? How do we retrain our brains and our emotional responses to be more compassionate and less prone to the backfires of unchecked empathy? It's a practice, not a switch, but these 5 steps can get you started. Step 1. Name the story. Not the sensation when someone's emotional state starts to bleed into yours. It's easy to get swept away and simply say, "I'm anxious," or "I'm so angry right now." But often, those feelings aren't entirely yours. They're echoes. Instead of internalizing it as "I'm anxious," try a subtle but powerful reframe. "I'm noticing Mark's anxiety in my body." Or, "I'm feeling the frustration that Sarah is expressing." This simple act of labeling creates a crucial psychological fence. You're acknowledging the emotion. You're not denying it, but you're also clearly demarcating its origin. You still see the neighbor's dog. You're aware of its presence, but it just can't bite you. You're observing, not absorbing. This technique allows you to gain a critical bit of distance, transforming an overwhelming internal experience into an external observation. It prevents the emotional contagion from fully taking hold and allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. It's about recognizing the emotional signal without allowing it to hijack your entire system. Step 2. Boundaries without guilt. This is perhaps the hardest, because we've been conditioned to believe that saying no or setting limits is selfish or uncaring. But here's the truth. Healthy boundaries are an act of self-preservation, which ultimately allows you to be more genuinely helpful. Repeat after me and practice saying it out loud. "I can listen for 15 minutes. Then I'm taking a walk." Or, "I can help you with this, but I need to finish X first, so I'll be available at 3 p.m. Or, "I hear how much you're struggling, and I'm here for you, but I can't take on your responsibilities right now." Harvard data on informal caregivers, those people looking after sick family members or friends, provides compelling evidence for this. They found that caregivers who preset time limits for their caregiving duties, essentially establishing clear boundaries, cut their stress hormones in half. Not only that, but they actually gave better advice and provided more effective support, because they stayed mentally sharp, less burnt out, and had preserved their own emotional resources. Setting boundaries isn't about being unfeeling. It's about managing your resources so you can show up consistently and effectively. It's about understanding that your well-being isn't a luxury. It's a prerequisite for truly caring for others without sacrificing yourself. It's saying, "I value our connection, and I also value my capacity to maintain that connection sustainably." Step 3. Offer agency, not absorption when someone comes to you with a problem. The empathic impulse is often to dive in, take on their burden, and try to solve it for them. This can lead to enabling and, again, burnout. The compassion upgrade asks you to shift this dynamic. Instead of absorbing their problem, offer them agency. Ask questions that empower them to find their own solutions, even small ones. Try asking, "What part of this problem do you want to solve first?" Or, "What's one small step you could take today?" Or, "What resources do you think you have available to tackle this?" This hands the steering wheel back to them. You're not abandoning them. You're converting your empathy from a crutch into a launch pad. You're providing support, guidance, and a sounding board, but you're not doing the heavy lifting for them. This approach respects their capacity, fosters their resilience, and ensures that they retain ownership of their challenges and, crucially, their triumphs. It's about believing in their ability to navigate their own lives, rather than inadvertently signaling that you need to rescue them. This empowers them and preserves your energy. Step 4. Regulate before you relate. In our hyper-connected world, emotional emergencies can ping into your pocket at any moment. A tragic text, an urgent email, a frantic phone call. Your immediate, unfiltered, empathic response can be overwhelming. But before you respond, before you dive into the emotional fray, take 20 seconds to regulate your own nervous system. Do a simple breathing reset, often called box breathing or square breathing. Inhale slowly for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 4. Hold your breath again for a count of 4. Repeat this cycle a few times. Navy SEALs use this exact technique to stay lethal under fire, to maintain calm and focus in extreme pressure situations. If it works for them in combat, it can certainly work for you to stay kind and grounded under emotional pressure. This brief pause isn't about being cold or unresponsive. It's about creating a physiological buffer. It allows your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, to come back online, reducing the amygdalas, the emotional response center, hijacked. It means you respond from a place of calm, clear-headed compassion, rather than reactive, overwhelmed empathy. You're not ignoring the call for help. You're simply ensuring you're in the best possible state to answer it effectively. Step 5. Schedule decompression. You wouldn't run a marathon and then immediately jump into another one without rest, would you? Yet, many highly empathic people engage in emotionally intense conversations or caregiving situations and then immediately transition to the next task, or worse. Stew in the emotional residue. Neuroscience shows that your brain needs a buffer, a dedicated period of decompression, to flush out stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. Otherwise, they linger, stew overnight, and hijack tomorrow's mood, leaving you irritable, anxious, and depleted. So, after an intense conversation, a difficult caregiving shift, or a particularly draining interaction, actively schedule 30 minutes of non-negotiable solo time. This isn't optional. It's essential maintenance. What you do during this time is personal. Maybe it's a brisk walk, listening to uplifting music, journaling, meditating, doing some light stretching, or simply sitting in silence with a cup of tea. The key is that it's your time, free from demands, dedicated to processing and releasing. This deliberate act of self-care allows your nervous system to recalibrate, prevents the accumulation of emotional toxins, and ensures that you wake up feeling refreshed rather than carrying yesterday's burdens into today. It's an investment in your long-term capacity to care. When to seek backup sometimes, despite all our best efforts, the weight of others' emotions, or the insidious effects of a dark empath become too much to bear alone. If you find yourself waking up dreading goodness, yes, that's a thing. A kind of anticipatory fatigue about having to be constantly on for others. Or if every notification, every ring of the phone, spikes your pulse with anxiety. It's a clear signal. If you're experiencing persistent exhaustion, emotional numbness, irritability, or even physical symptoms like headaches or digestive issues that seem tied to your emotional load, it's time to reach out. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. Think of it like calling tech support when your laptop overheats. You wouldn't try to fix a complex hardware issue yourself if you didn't know how. You'd call an expert. The same applies to your incredibly complex emotional and neurological system. Seek out a therapist who is specifically trained in secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, or even narcissistic abuse. If that resonates with your experience, online directories are fantastic resources. Many allow you to filter for specialists in compassion fatigue or empathic burnout. The good news is that most insurance plans now cover mental health, making it more accessible than ever to get professional support from the comfort of your own home. Getting help is basic maintenance for a highly empathic system, not a flaw in your character. It's an act of courage and self-love, ensuring that your incredible capacity for care doesn't become your undoing. Let's be clear. Empathy isn't the villain here. It's a beautiful, essential human trait. But unchecked empathy unregulated and unprotected, can indeed be a dangerous force. Your capacity to feel deeply is a gift, but like any powerful gift, it requires stewardship, wisdom, and protection. Guard your bandwidth fiercely, aim your care with intention and precision, and always, always remember this crucial truth. You can't rescue someone from quicksand by jumping in with them. All that does is create two victims. To truly help, to truly make a difference, you throw them a rope and brace your feet firmly on solid ground. If this video gave you that rope today, if it offered you a fresh perspective or a new tool, we'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below telling us which backfire hit you hardest, or what step of the compassion upgrade you're excited to try first. Share this video with that friend who always overextends themselves, the one whose heart is bigger than their boundaries. And, of course, subscribe for more no-fluff psychology designed to help you thrive. Because the world absolutely needs your heart, your understanding, and your profound capacity for connection. But it needs them healthy, whole, and operating from a place of sustainable strength. It needs your health just as much as it needs your heart.